As mentioned, you want to make style changes in CSS, simply because CSS is always there and JavaScript and jQuery are only read once. However, in some cases, you might want to make style changes through jQuery. And actually, this is pretty easy again. Let's say we want to change the background color of this column over here. Let's get the selector, copy it, do the usual. Now we want to change the CSS and we want to change the background color. Use a comma over here and let's set it to yellow. And there we go. Now we can also apply more than one CSS change. And let's do that for this column. Let's reuse the code with the upward arrow. Let's change the selector to column number 2. And now to make more than one CSS change, we almost need the setup like we know from the CSS section. So you have the selector. Here we add an opening curly bracket. Instead of the comma, we use a colon. And here we insert the comma to separate the properties and the values. So we have the background color yellow. Let's set the height to 600 pixels, comma, and let's set a border of 5 pixels, solid and green. Now we have to close the curly bracket, close the parenthesis, and add a semicolon, and hit enter. And there we go. You now have the background color, the border, and the height has been changed. Now the code starts looking quite messy, so let's copy it and use a JavaScript beautifier. Let's paste it. You can find one on Google. I have one here. Hit beautify code, and there we go. This code is now much easier to read. So when you are building A/B tests with a lot of code, do use a JavaScript beautifier and do use comments, so it's easy to read and see what your code is doing. Now in some cases, you might need a certain CSS value of an element, and that is easy, because jQuery works pretty intuitive. So let's go back to the website, and let's say we want the color code of this button. Let's get the selector. We can use this class again. Copy it, go to the console. Let's get rid of this. We use the CSS method again, and now we simply state background color and nothing else. Now when we hit enter, the color code shows up right here. Now try this yourself. Get the height and width of an element on your website to show up in the developer tools like we just did for the color code. Now pause the video and give that a try. Alright, did you get that? I think it was pretty easy. I will reuse this code for the orange button, and instead of background color, I want to see the height. And there we have it, almost 56 pixels. Now again, I'll do this for the width. And that's 177.3 pixels. Now you might have noticed something interesting. Because if we check out the box model for this button in CSS, and I already have it right here, we see that jQuery gets the width and height of the total box, so including the padding and the borders. Whereas CSS uses the width and height just for the content. So that is something to keep in mind. So just to show you, the CSS width is 26.337 pixels, but for jQuery it adds the padding and the border, making it a total of 55.9375 pixels.